and there's no telling what time zone you're in. I do have people that follow me from many different time zones. So happy to have you here. If you're watching the replay, that's awesome. I am just going to transfer a little bit more information on something that I call prosperous relationships. Now, prosperous relationships are relationships that prosper. Not rocket scientist stuff, is it? No, it's not. It's relationships that prosper, relationships that continually improve and experience an abundance of energy, in love, in security, in trust, in financial income. There is an abundance. And because of that abundance, they become prosperous. There's not this inside stress from one person being good at finances and one person not, or both people not being good at finances. I have been in both of those scenarios, actually. Obviously, I was one of the ones that was not good at finances. However, if you're going to get good at relationships and have a long-standing happy relationships, you do have to get a grip on finances. Yes, you have to learn about people, and you have to learn about the mechanics of good relationships so that you can create within those. So it's not a shocker to you if you do a certain thing and it offends your partner. It's not a shocker because you violated maybe a basic rule of people skills, something you would never do in the office or never do with one of your clients, but then you do that to your spouse. So those are just like the science of relationships. Well, part of the science of relationships is that there is an open communication, and that there's the trust factor, that there's honesty present. And let me tell you what I have found in working with people. Generally, one of them is better at finances than the other. It's the people that I've worked with, very rarely were they both good. I don't know if I ever recall that. Usually there's one that either is naturally good at finances, or maybe they just made the decision to subscribe to a program to learn what they didn't know. And again, from a trusted source, they grew, they acquired the tools, they acquired the knowledge, and they implemented. And then their finances improved. And maybe in that relationship, they're the ones that keeps the finger on the pulse. I've also been coaching people, and twice that I can recall in recent years, the money habits of the spouse was the core problem in the relationship. The money habits. There's a book, I'm trying to think of who wrote The Millionaire Next Door. It was a book written a couple decades ago, and it was talking about the millionaire next door. So it was talking about someone who might live next door to you, and you don't even know that they're a millionaire, and that there's a lot of those in your neighborhood. There's probably one, and that they don't have that like Kardashian lifestyle. They just mind their P's and Q's, and they do, they drive older vehicles. They don't have payments on cars. Everything is paid for. But in that book, the reason I was mentioning this is in one of the chapters early in, the author says that consistently successful people who become highly successful financially, if they're married, the spouse is on the same page. The spouse has to get on the same page as the one who's good with money. And so in the instance of the husband and wife that I'm thinking of that I worked with, she had almost like an addiction to shopping. And if this is you, just know that there's an underlining, there's always like a root reason for addictions, right? There's something that you're trying to fill, right? There's like a void or a hole, and you're trying to fill it. And in her case, she would, I mean, she would have an endless amount of clothes that still had the tags on them. And her compulsion, it almost became a compulsion to shop because she was trying to fill this thing. And I think she was trying to also get back at him because she knew that it bothered him that she spent the money. He worked for the money and she spent the money. And it was a very dysfunctional kind of relationship. Now, she could have chosen just to get on the same page as him. And ultimately, she did. But there were some things that they had to come to agreement on. And one of them was that he had to be okay with her receiving an allowance from him and never telling him what it was spent on. Like she had an allowance and he had an allowance. It was just for them. And those particular things never got tracked. It's like whatever the heck you want to spend it on, blow it on, hang on to it, invest it. It was none of the other partner's concern. And what that did was it created a greater sense of freedom. Because I think what happened in that relationship, and if this is resonating with you, I can really direct you to a fantastic financial literacy program that will help you self-correct some of this stuff. But what it did was she started to respect that was just her money. And it was hard for him at the beginning, but really when he looked at it, like he wanted to know what she did with it. But when it was all said and done and we talked about it, it was so much better for him not to even care. Eventually he didn't even care what she spent it on because that allowance thing became the status quo. And he was so their finances were so out of control that it almost like promoted in him this controlling spouse, controlling partner. And so you'll find that in relationships, that as things are spiraling out of control, and it could be finances, it could be attention, it could be like a job taking over, and one of the spouses isn't feeling the attention, or that she's being prioritized or he's being prioritized, right? And then things start to, partners start to act out, and not always overtly. A lot of times they operate covertly. They go have a coffee with someone who they know is pursuing them even though they're married. They go and spend the money even though they know as they're doing it, not only do they not need the item, it's almost like being a bad child, like a rebellious child, right? And so you see these patterns, but they're very, very easy. Well, I shouldn't say they're easy to fix. They're simple to fix. There's simple and there's easy. They are simple to fix. There's very simple structures of things that will just fix anything, but it's up to the partners to have the vision and hold the big picture vision and play to that vision and be willing to change habits. That's what I had to do years ago in financial thinking. I had to change habits. And at first it was a very intentional reprogramming, but over time it now has become my default mode. And that's how it will be for you too in your relationship. Reach out if you need to talk. I always offer a free call. I'll put the link in the comments. Please, my mission is to rescue those relationships at home so people can truly live the life that they've always wanted. And when you talk to people about the life that they've always wanted, very rarely do they talk about the life that they just want to live by themselves. They're talking about having people that are very close to them, or having that person who's their partner that shares the rest of their life with them and has a common vision and is in purposeful pursuit of that every single day. So I hope you gained something from this. You can comment if you did. Thanks for tuning in.